So now that we understand a little bit about stock trends, let's get a little more granular and let's begin to study candles. Candles tell us the price range that a stock has been in a certain amount of time. And my greatest mentor when it comes to candles is a trader named Steve Nissen. And he's a great guy, and I consider him a friend. He's not someone I go to dinner with every week, but he's certainly someone that when I talk to him, I feel really grateful to what he's taught me. But Steve and I have had the chance to speak together a lot on stage back in the old days. And he was a Wall Street guy who moved to Japan to study where these came from. And they used to use these for rice. And what they do is they take a period of time, and the Japanese would do this with rice and say, okay, at the open of this period of time, what was the price? And at the close, what was the price? And what's the lowest it got and the highest it got in that time period? So it gave us 4 pieces of information. So this could represent 1 minute, or it could represent a month, or it could represent a day, or a nanosecond, or an hour, or 15 minutes. So whatever period of time this is, we know that the stock opened this period. It began this period trading at 24.10 at the opening of this period. You see how that lines up right with that level. Okay. If we go down a little bit, of course, that's going to be down to 24, right? And we'd have 24, 20, 24.30, 24.40, 24.50, 24.60, 24.70, 24.80, and 24.90. So we have all these levels in between. And so this is the open. It closed here at 24.90. The highest it ever got was $25. The lowest it ever got was $24. And that's the story of the trading in that of the price action in that time period. And so pretty easy. If we want to label these a little bit, this area right here that's filled in, this box area, is called the real body. Now, I don't know why they call it the real body instead of just the body. Maybe they've been down in Beverly Hills where or Miami, where the bodies aren't as real. Maybe there's been a little plastic in those, but we call this a real body right here. Here, this area is called the shadow. It's not called the wick thingy, it's called the shadow. And this little wick thingy up here is also a shadow. And I'll see how smart you are. This is called the upper shadow, and this is called the lower shadow. That's exactly right, the lower shadow. So we have the upper shadow, the lower shadow, and the real body. And the reason this is, they'll color them colors, usually green and red, sometimes white and black. A green candle means that it went up, right? But a red candle means that it went down, and these are swapped. So in this candle, it opened at 24 and went down. Opened at 24 and then it went down to 24.10. In this candle, it went up. So this is called a bullish candle. Over here, a bullish candle. And this is called a bearish candle, of course, right? Bearish candle. And there's all types of, just like there's all different types of patterns, there's all types of different candles. And believe it or not, if we put these together, it'll tell a story. So the first candle of note that everybody seems to learn about first is a Japanese word that has several meanings. And so, like in English, the word run might bring very many things to mind. If I say the word run, you might think of a hole in your stocking if you're my wife, or if you say to me, run, I think of a baseball game where someone just scored. Or you might say, hey, we're really on a good run right here. Things are going well. I'm on a run. Or you might think of walking very fast to where it becomes more than a jog. So there's many words. Well, one of the Japanese words is doji. And one of the definitions, from what I'm told, is it communicates sameness because of indecision. In other words, it means that this stayed the same because people couldn't decide whether they wanted to buy or sell. And that makes a lot of sense, because if you don't know if you want to buy the stock or sell the stock, you probably don't do anything. And so it just stays the same. It doesn't move very much during the day. So here the open and the close are the same price, and the high and the low are very close to that. So these are very tiny candles, where the one the day before might have been a good big green one. The one day after, it might be a great big red one. But you have these little tiny dojis that'll happen in between sometimes. So I get a kick out of this. I enjoy teaching this very much because it gives me a chance to do my best at my Jerry Seinfeld impression. And I don't know how good my impressions are. I mean, come on, I said I'd give it a shot. But, you got Jerry Seinfeld. And so we'll see how it goes. If you're not very old, then you don't even know who Jerry Seinfeld is. But in the 90s, oh my gosh, look how old I am. In the 90s, it was the #1 sitcom, man, and they still run reruns. And you can get it on Hulu probably. So go watch Jerry's Love Life, because every single one is about Jerry's love life. And they all work out the same. Something happens, he meets a girl, he says, wow, she's cute. Little movement there, bullish candle, so to speak. We got the same hobbies. Things are going well. We got a sense of humor. That's fantastic. And then, and then something really rough happens. It's not enough to have him get up and walk out. If she was in the arms of another man, it's over immediately, right? It's just over. It's a completely reversal. But sometimes he's caught where he's really not excited about staying with her, but he's really not excited about dumping her, and he's trying to deal with some quirk. So the problem might just be that she got man hands. It could happen.
Would you like some bread, Jerry?
No, thanks. I'm just not hungry.
Well, then at least drink your beer. You have a little something on your face.
I can get it.
No, you're missing it. It's higher. It's an eyelash. Make a wish.
I don't want to.
Make a wish.
Okay. Didn't come true.
Don't you just love lobster?
So he doesn't run for his life. It's not the same as if she's been unfaithful, but he's like, and then he says he goes to the diner, and maybe Kramer and George are there, and George and Kramer. So George's like, hey, Jerry, so how's so-and-so? And he says, she's got hands like a man. How do you date a woman with hands like a man? Kramer, she's got hands like a man. How do you date a woman with hands like a man? Something like that. So that's the best I got. Look, we never guaranteed the quality of your humor, only frequent attempts. But yeah, it's man hands. And so I might say, I don't know where that's going to go. Before it was looking pretty good. They look like they're getting engaged, but she got man hands. What are you going to do with that? And then maybe this is the killer, right? Maybe he meets her family and that's over. So all of a sudden we look at two seemingly very similar charts, two stocks, and we see that, let's draw some trend lines here. Let's see, okay, this one, looks like it should bounce up. This one looks like it should bounce up. Let's say this is stock ABC, and this is stock XYZ. Fundamentals are comparable. They're both in the same sector. Which one do I think I bet on? Well, I don't know which one's going to do better, but I'll tell you, they said no here, and they said no here, didn't they? And they said no, 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 and no. Here they said no, no, and right here they're saying, I don't know if that's a no or not. I think maybe, and that's often how this stuff works. You might picture it as a car, where you have reverse, neutral, and drive. And before you go from reverse to drive, there's this moment of neutrality. And that's often how someone might change their political opinion. They're very strong on one way. Well, it isn't like the next day they change. They just start coming to different ideas. You know, a person doesn't usually go from being a raging racist to someone who loves all people overnight. Usually they have a moment of questioning. You know, they're kind of in question. They're indecision. They're like, I'm not so sure what I believe is right. I mean, and that's how we learn and get better. So it's very common in a marriage that it might just end in a heartbeat. Like, you know, someone's caught with infidelity, it's over, right? But a lot of times it's just a midlife crisis where the man or woman says, I just don't know if I love this person anymore. I just don't know if this is me. I don't know. Indecision. I don't. What does it say? I don't. Where is it? I don't know. It's indecision. I'm not sure. So fun stuff. A little bit of humor there, but yeah, I can't decide. That usually is more of a time of reversal, where it means they've gone from drive to neutral, and they might go into reverse at that point. So there's a lot of candle patterns that we'll learn, and I will tell you, this is not an ideal place to go through every single. I mean, what if we spend an hour on each one of these, right? So here are 10 of them. Let's see, looks like 14. Is that 7 and 7? 14 different ones. So we've got plenty of work to do. We've got 18 different chart patterns we've introduced now, and now we got 14 different candle patterns for a total of a lot, 30 something probably. And so the best way to learn these is to see them for real and begin practicing in a paper trade account and go to Mentor Club. Okay, be in Mentor Club. That's why we have all of our programs complement each other, whether it be Mentor Club, coaching, advanced options, whatever. That's important stuff. So, of course, our next job here is let's do a search. Okay, and we can search here for doji, and not all of them. There's dragonfly dojis, which what do you think that would look like? It would look like a dragonfly, right? And you have gravestone dojis that look like a stone coming out of the grave. You have and then you have regular dojis. So you can search for all kinds of different ones. The Maribozu. We might be remiss if we don't at least talk about the psychology behind some of these. So the doji, we understood pretty well. It's indecision. Let's look at some other things. A Marubozu candle, for example, is very strong, either up or down. And I don't know Japanese, but I'm told that Marubozu would be akin to a haircut where it's cropped, like a crew cut, where there's no hair. It's like, a crew cut, crop top. And Marubozus are long candles, either upwards or downwards, that show very strong movement. A lot of these you'll notice happen in the context of a trend. So if I have, and these can be various colors, it doesn't necessarily have to be bullish or bearish, it's more about the trend, is right here we've come up in an uptrend, and notice these are similar candles, so wouldn't they be similar? Well, it really has to do with their trend. Is up here it's come and it's kind of hit a top and it's testing the waters low. So I think that's reversal this way. Here it's coming down, right? It's testing the waters low, but it snapped back up, which means we could have a reversal here. The same thing here. These are just the inverse. We're heading up, and snaps back. Maybe it's a down. Here it goes down, tests the waters, right? Going there. A lot different than coming here and snapping back. So those are the psychology behind. This is called a bullish engulfing candle. This would not be significant at in an uptrend. But notice how here we started low and we just totally engulfed the entire previous day. It's very much like the Marubozu. It's very strong and it engulfs all of the day's sediment. So where it started and ended yesterday is totally reversed in a huge big way. If we get what was called confirmation, that could be a change in reversal. Bearish engulfing is the opposite, but it has to be in an uptrend changing from up to down. These would not be bearish engulfing considered. If the trend were coming up this way and these weren't here, that would not be considered as strong. If this were in a downtrend and this stuff were not here, no, these are in the bottom of trend after it's been in a trend for a while. The dark cloud cover is a little bit weaker than a bearish engulfing, isn't it? It did reverse, and it went through halfway through the candle. So dark cloud cover comes, and it didn't make it all the way through to engulf it, but it did get halfway through the candle. The opposite here, or the antagonist here, is piercing. It pierced the middle up. It didn't continue down. It didn't get to a full bullish engulfing, but it did pierce the middle. So that could be a sign of reversal. They just tell stories. Different than an engulfing is a harami. Here you see that it was bullish, 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 and a bear takes over. Here it was bullish, 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 and a bear is inside. And harami, I'm told, is another word for expecting or pregnant. One body inside of another, right? One body inside of another. And that can be a reversal because, look, it started a little bit lower that way, and it did change direction significantly within that pattern. So here's a bearish harami, here's a bullish harami. And again, in MetaClub, you'll see us use these all the time. And so my challenge to you, and we'll actually look at some charts, and I'll begin starting now. When I see these different patterns, they'll leap off the page to us. They'll leap off the page, and we'll see some that work out and some that fail, some that don't predict or continue. So run some searches. And again, we can go to the technical analysis tab, and we can run searches for these patterns we looked at, and also for these candlesticks that we looked at. Many, many other different technical ideas which we'll explore, like moving averages and gaps, and we're going to go through a lot of these. So it's going to be fun. And sure enough, if you hit those, you'll see that little tiny doji right there? It can find them. It's just like facial recognition. And now we start seeing all kinds of these. See these hammers here, and we'll say hangmans and a big Marubozu right here. All kinds of stuff that we'll begin to see. Dark cloud covers, engulfings, and all kinds of piercings and cool stuff like this. So we'll become familiar with all the candles and what's happening. Remember, they're just an alert. Right here, I have a bearish engulfing candle in an uptrend. I say, hey, this could be the end of it. This might confirm it. We'd want to see always confirmation after to see if that trend continues, because they change all the time. Let's talk for just a minute about we'll save that one for the next one. Let's stick with this. Give you a little homework here. I'm not going to give you a lot of homework, but run some searches and start just getting used to seeing some of these and when they work and when they don't. And I really like the idea of getting used to the fact that these are alerts, not predictions, that they simply get our attention. And if you talk to some experts on here, they'll think that these could predict, the future, and this is your gateway to heaven. I can show you every single one of these reversal candles, and I can show you multiple instances where they didn't reverse and they didn't do what the technical analysis they're likely to do. Just like I could show you a million weather reports where they predicted sun and it was rain instead. And so these are likelihoods. They're things to notice, but they're not things to swear on your life for, because things can always change. The future's open. The future's fluid. We're just looking at data, making intelligent decisions. So run your searches, understand that they're just alerts. And when we come back, I'm going to spend a little bit of time on filling the gap. This is more of a chart pattern. I might have been better to put it in the chart basics, but I tell you, I like this pattern so much that I think I'm going to spend time on it when we get back. In fact, we'll launch into this one and recap it when we get back, so we can give a little bit more time. So keep attending your Cashflow Academy coaching group. Study different time frames, weekly time frames, daily time frames, minute to minute. There's always settings on the period, and you can set it to have a year period or a day period or a month period or a second period if your software is really sophisticated. And so work on that. Identify open, closes, highs, and lows on candles. Just spot some of these basic candles in this segment. Don't try to be an expert on your first day. And then run a search for a specific type of candle. When we come back, we'll talk about technical tools. But first, I want to put this into its own little segment, perhaps. It's not quite worth a whole segment, but it's too important just to put on the tail end of this. So I think what I'll do is when we get into the technical tools, we'll actually start with a chart pattern and give this its own little special attention, because I love these. And we'll talk a little bit about filling the gap when we come back.